Typical me, doesn't take the overlay off. I know there's always one mistake to start with. Hope everybody is well. Thank you for tuning in. There we go. I know that the face is probably more for radio, so I thought I'd keep it covered. But no, this is a crunch match. It is Burnley against Everton, and I've got an absolutely fantastic Evertonian to basically talk us through their side of things. So first and foremost, thank you for coming on, Rose. It really does mean a lot. And more importantly, let people know who you are and what you do, and plug your socials.
Thank you so much for having me on. I would say I'm excited to talk about Everton, but that would be a lie. So no, I appreciate you having me on though. Yes, I have a YouTube channel called Everton Rose. Started a few years ago, and just talking about the ups, but honestly mainly downs of Everton over the last 3 years. It's literally Everton Rose on all platforms. You'll find me there.
Happy days. People, if you do want to go follow Rose, check out her channel. The link is in the description of the video, so please do go check it out. If you are new around here as well, please do give us a subscription. Follow us on all social media platforms, as you can see below. We are also on Twitch and TikTok, although I just can't keep up with this TikTok malarkey and editing all the videos. Keep trying to focus more on this than I do on TikTok. It's just, I'm fed up of trying to be down with the kids and stuff like that. It's just not for me. But no, thank you very much for coming on first and foremost. As I say, let us know your thoughts, because we know how big a game this is without even, having to put it into words. Just the words Burnley versus Everton is strong enough to say how much of a crunch game this is. How's your season gone so far from your perspective?
Oh, well, I think after last season, all of the optimism that came with that, signing the likes of Rodriguez, having Ancelotti as manager, I'll be honest, I wasn't too surprised when he left, because who is going to turn down Real Madrid? Nobody, basically. So, but then I kind of thought, as soon as Ancelotti left, right, that's Rodriguez gone. But as soon as we appointed Benitez, I thought it was just real trouble. He would have to be perfect. We'd have to be probably in the top 7 for fans to get behind him. And there was always a cloud over his past and everything. But just decisions, I haven't understood many of the decisions that Everton have made at every level. We're looking like we're going to be in a relegation fight. So we haven't got Rodriguez. We don't talk about the number 10 that's currently suspended. But we also then sell Luca Dean to Aston Villa. And when he's another creative asset that we've got that could actually create goals with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He falls out with Benitez. We then sell Dean, but then 3 or 4 days later sack Benitez, the guy that he fell out with. So I just don't understand that from a board perspective. They could have said, well, if Benitez loses the next game, he's gone anyway, so why don't you just stay? I think Dean was happy at Everton. He signed a 4-year deal last season. And then we've signed, Mikolenko, who's very improving. We've got Patterson, who's now out for the season. Our injuries, we've had the most injuries in the league, so that's also a factor. But it's just been poor. I almost don't want to say that for the players, because injuries happen. Every team has injuries, but with Everton, it's that's why we're in a relegation fight. Well, it's not just that. It's that the performances have just been so bad. It's almost worse than a training session. That's my opinion of it. There's been no intensity, or not enough in loads of games. And that's why we're 17th. The table doesn't lie. And it's going to be a real fight to try and get out of it now in the next 10 games.
No, as you say, it's massive, absolutely massive. Going off the pitch, talking about, behind the scenes, Moshiri's come in. He has spent cash. There's no doubt about it. Going back to as far as Ronald Koeman, and, him buying, well, let's just say you'll probably agree, players that were just nowhere near good enough for stupid amounts of money.
And overpaying,
yeah. Tell me what you think about Moshiri, because from an outside looking in, he's almost like a Premier League Mel Morris at Derby, where he spent money to try and get success instantly, and it's just, as we see at Derby, it's just been a nosedive since.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Mashiri is that he came in, but he didn't get rid of anybody. You know, I think like Man City is the example that I always go to because they're the most successful when they brought money in, is that everyone in the board left, pretty much. You know, the owners came in and they said, right, we need to change top to bottom from the board to the first team coaches to the academy coaches. It all took time. It still took them, like, they had to overspend as well. They had to, you know, do all of that. But they got people in who are actually knowledgeable. And I feel like at Everton, there's so much sentimentality. So like Ken Wright is an ongoing debate, and it's been a debate for about 20 years for Everton fans. You know, what does Ken Wright do? And he had the audacity to say this season, yeah, but you've had good times. You know, we've got to finals of competitions, we've got to semi-finals. Like, you know, so I think this is one season where fan pressure, fans who go to the game and spend their money, actually confronted him. You know, when we were languishing towards bottom of, you know, even about 15th, we weren't even in the bad position that we are now. And he's still there. So Mashiri's come in. He's wanted the Hollywood signings. You know, we bring Rooney back and we get Koeman as manager, and you know, we spend money. A lot of it just on absolute dross that you don't even know, like Cenk Tosun. You know, but also again, it's luck. Balassi for Palace was, you know, great. Him and Zaha, you know, they both went off. Zaha, you know, is still playing. Balassi had one injury after he came to Everton, and then he never looked like the same player, and he's gone. So it is luck as well, but mainly it's just really bad spending, not getting the right people in, being too sentimental, inviting players back when we just shouldn't. And yeah, Mashiri just basically playing Football Manager or FIFA career mode, whatever you want to say. I mean, that's what he's done, you know, and he's looked at another thing. I've moaned about this so much, but going to the top six and saying, who are your rejects? You know, Schneiderlin, Walcott, Iwobi, I'm probably, Delph, you know, this is some I can name straight away. And then also going to the likes of Swansea and overpaying for Sigurdsson, getting Ashley Williams when you've just sent John Stones. Like, there was no plan for the future. No long-term plan, you know. And Ashley Williams, decent defender, you know, not terrible, like had a decent career. But when you look at someone, I just, yeah, it's frustrating. You know, I feel like, whereas someone like Leicester have done it the right way. So they will sell their assets. They'll sell Chilwell and Maguire. And, you know, they've acquired Maddison as well. He'll probably be the next one to go. But then they buy young players again from France, from Holland, and they build them up. Tielemans, another one, Ndidi. I mean, they've just got loads. But we tend to sell our young players and then bring in 30-year-olds and then wonder now why we're in a relegation fight 5 years later when those players have gone. So I think it's a lot of things, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I was going to say about the Kenrat situation, because as you mentioned there, that he's sort of sitting there. You feel like you can't progress. It's almost like the situation at Manchester United with, you know, with Ferguson still sat there. It's almost like you're still living in that shadow, and you feel like you sort of need to, you know, undo the belt, let them go, let them free, and start new beginnings. However, you know, that's not been the case. The managerial appointments. I mean, I'll go back to, obviously, as you mentioned, Rafa.
Yeah.
How did you feel as an Everton fan when that happened? Because surely there must have been some animosity there due to the fact that he'd obviously not far to travel across from Stanley Park.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a bit younger. I think it was probably more of an age demographic thing. So there were definitely fans above the age of 30, I would say widely no to him. Like, even when he was appointed, when he was holding the scarf, when he was saying all the right things, it was still no. You know, we don't want him. I was more, well, if he gets results on the pitch, I'm not really going to care, because we've had, a lot of players in the past, not recently really, but, played for both Liverpool and Everton. I mean, Peter Reid was an was a Liverpool fan, I believe. A legend. So I feel like if the performances and the results had been better, fans would have got on board. I mean, there would have been, I think, a few that would have just not got on board at all. But I mean, if you say hypothetically Benitez wins Everton and FA Cup, after how many years, are you really going to say, oh no, I still hate him? Of course not. But yeah, so for me, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't happy about it from the terms of he wasn't an elite manager when he came. A decent manager, did a good job at Newcastle, did a great job. I think it was at Valencia, somewhere in Spain, like early 2000s, then Liverpool, but in the last 5-6 years, I mean, he failed in China. That to me didn't suggest that he was going to do any better at Everton, really, because we've tried everything. We've tried, Marco Silva, the young and up-and-coming coach, who's doing great at Fulham. We've tried Koeman, a person of stature. We've tried Benitez, someone who's won the Champions League. Nothing has worked at Everton, and so that's what tells me it's not the managers. It's, I'd say, probably just the culture, like above the managers, and just things aren't done in the right way, personally, for me.
Would you say it's a little bit almost like Tottenham, that no matter what manager comes in to try and sort the situation, you've still got the same amount of crap in front of you to deal with, and you're not being able to do your own thing with it. I mean, moving on to Lampard's appointment, that must have been a strange one, because you're looking at it and thinking, Norwich turn you away. Okay, you were decent with Derby, but that's because pretty much it weren't Derby anymore. It was Frank Lampard's Derby. But how do you feel? Yeah, I mean, at Chelsea we saw how much out of his depth he was. Do you see something similar now at Everton? Do you think he just got the job on the technicality of his name?
Definitely. I think that's also a Moshiri thing again. He will be aware of Frank Lampard. He'll be aware of the trophies he's won as a player. But again, to be honest with you, I'm surprised that Lampard took it. I know that Everton approached Rooney as well, and he probably saw the squad and thought, no. But I'm better off staying at Derby than going into a relegation fight. So honestly, I'm a bit surprised that Lampard took it, because I feel like if he fails at Everton, I don't know where he'd go. Like, I think he'd have to go back down to the Championship, like you say. And I think, I don't know what it is. I think Lampard and the team that's come in, so you've got the likes of Ashley Cole and others, and I just think, well, if you can't learn from those players, and if you can't want to impress those players, like, we're done for, basically. I mean, as a fullback, if you can't learn from one of the best who ever played, in my opinion, in the Premier League, then I'm like, I don't know what you want. Like, I don't know who else. I mean, you could have Ashley Cole, you could have Lampard, you can have, as a midfielder, can Lampard not teach you something? And I just think it's another thing with Everton. No goals from midfield, like barely any. And I know that's not his role as manager today, but I feel like he needs to. I feel like he actually needs to go and say, I did this, copy it, because it's just, we haven't scored enough goals this season. And it's just so many things, because I actually respect Lampard for taking it, to be perfectly honest, because, if Benitez, an experienced manager who's been in different countries and won things, can't get a tune out of them, can't get anything out of them, but Lampard actually takes it, and only on about a 2.5-year contract, like it's not very long. I actually respect it, and I've got behind him. Of course, he's done things that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, like not playing Gordon, for example, against West Ham. I think that was silly, because Gordon's been one of our best players. Maybe saving him for tomorrow, but I think it's just, it goes past the manager for me. Like I always say, I feel like we could have Klopp, Guardiola, and Tuchel, all three of them trying to do something. I think it'd still be the same, because you can't change the players. If the mentality is not there, if the character's not there, and simply the ability is not there, they can say everything to you, but if you can't execute it, then it's not on the manager for me.
No, I totally agree. We'll just have a look at some comments. The missus is in saying, going to be late to the party because she's showering, which is about time because she stinks. But yeah, please do give a like and sub to the channel. And also, as she says there, head over to Rose's channel and give Rose a sub too. Also on the road to 400 now. So yeah, please, I know people don't like, I hear this a lot. Dan, I like you, but I don't like Burnley. And that's probably why the sub count doesn't go up that much. It's the football club. Don't worry. We might have more fans in the Championship. Who knows? We've got the 1892 Reds podcast says, big up Dan. Also, Rose, as always, absolute legend. Some love from the Reds.
I know.
Solo says, big up Dan and panel. Thank you very much, Solo, for coming in. Also says, it's hard work, is TikTok. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Derek says, Dan, have you got that sinking feeling yet? Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't think we could sink any lower. I mean, we could become a Norwich or Watford and just become a yo-yo club, but hopefully not. And she's back just. So that's it. I better be on my best behaviour now. Looking at the squad this season, obviously the injuries has been, as you mentioned, have been absolutely massive. Let's take in the last game against West Ham. Michael Keane, what is he doing there?
I don't, and that's the thing for me. Like, I feel like we went to the right clubs, but I think I always get his name. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but we signed the wrong centre back from your club. Like, it was, because I feel like Ben Mee, is it Tarkowski? How do I say
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Spot on.
He's the one that I was like, okay, we've signed a Burnley centre back. Great. Who is it? Oh, Michael Keane, and he looked good for you guys as well. But I feel like he was protected actually quite a lot and probably organised. And it's just decisions like that as well. I mean, I think we had 3 red cards in 3 games. Alan, Michael Keane. I don't remember who the other one was. So to do that on a second yellow when you're the captain of the club and we've got Burnley next, physical team, tall, Weghorst, all of that. No, I just want to make a silly challenge on Antonio and get myself sent off so I don't have to play. Like, I just don't. I don't get it. Like, and that to me it just seems like I've got no idea. I can't explain it. I don't know what he was doing. So it's injuries, but it's also just suspensions and players making really silly decisions, which obviously isn't helping.
No, I mean, I only have to go back to our game at Goodison. That was horrible. My first time going to Goodison. And obviously we'd gone 1-0 up, and then 6 minutes of madness just occurred after that. It's strange to talk about because, as yourself and as, me as a Burnley fan, we've not really had many wins to shout about this season. So to mention one for Everton was a bit of a dagger to me heart there. But yeah, it's you can see from that game that even then, at that point, them goals were from midfield. It was Damari Gray, Andros Townsend. Absolute fantastic finishes against us. Just looking at the injuries, obviously Townsend's out for the rest of the season. After knee surgery, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of thigh injuries I've seen. Van der Beek in the thigh injury, Yerry Mina, Delph, Tom Davies. All with thigh injuries, and then obviously you got Nathan Patterson with a dodgy ankle.
Yeah, and he hasn't even really played. We've all been calling for Patterson to start. Right back, Coleman's. His legs have pretty much gone. And he's just tired, I think. And now Patterson's season's over. And I just like, my issue is what are they doing in training? Like, either they're not working hard enough, and when they get to a match, they're just they're just dropping like flies. I can't explain it because I think this is the worst season I can remember for injuries. Of course, every team gets them. But, Calvert-Lewin out for ages. Mina probably won't be back. And that's a huge loss for us for tomorrow in terms of, playing you guys. And, and then now it's, Delph, I mean, signing Delph. I mean, he's barely played, probably played about 10 times for Everton, probably no more than that. It's just, I don't understand what they do in training, because like you say, a lot of thigh injuries, a lot of like muscle strains, and you just think this is your job. And I know that we can be unlucky, but it's just ridiculous at this point. Van der Beek getting injured in the warm-up, and he's out for a few weeks apparently, and you just think, what is going on?
It's bad though, isn't it? Because I mean, injury-wise, we've got a few. Nathan Collins is obviously back after a suspension after his red card. Ben Mee, as we know, is out for the season. Goodmanson's had a calf injury. Well, he was due to be back after appendicitis, and then got a calf injury after coming back. But Matej Vidra is potentially going to be back as well. He played 60 minutes in the under-23s, so we might have somebody there in terms of a striker, which will be decent. One thing that I wanted to ask was, and it's probably going to be difficult to put your finger on it, where do you see Everton's main weaknesses on the field this season?
I think there are lots. That might be easy, actually. Goals. So a lot of criticism has come on the defence. I mean, we're shipping goals. It's the FA Cup, conceding 4 to Palace, 5 to Spurs, 3 to Newcastle. That's in the last few weeks. So the defence is coming under a lot of criticism, but also Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored in about 11 or I think 8 Premier League matches. He hasn't scored in a few. Richarlison scored about 4 goals. So they can complain about lack of service and all of that, but they haven't scored enough. I know Calvert-Lewin's been injured a lot, and it's not his fault. He won't be happy either. But for me, Calvert-Lewin, it just seems like he's ready to play for Arsenal. He's been linked to them really heavily. I think the way he played against West Ham was how a player plays when he doesn't want to get injured. He doesn't want to make that sprint. He doesn't want to pull a muscle and or get a worse injury. So it's on them. It's on the midfield. Not enough goals, but also not battling enough. Getting completely overrun. So games like Southampton away, Ward-Prowse and Armstrong just had free reign of the pitch. We're just poor. We're just genuine. We're just poor in all departments, and we've let players go that I would never have let go. In terms of Rodriguez, Dean, we've lost the creativity of those players. Positives, I mean, the likes of Gordon and Godfrey and Pickford have been at a decent standard, for most games, but they can't do it on their own. We haven't replaced Coleman. He's needed replacing for 3 years. We replace him with Patterson. He gets injured. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that I would say, that Everton have just neglected. And we've always, we've been flirting with relegation for the past, 5 years, and then a manager has to get sacked, and then somehow we escape. This year, I'm just looking at it and I'm just thinking maybe, we're either going to go down by a fine margin, or we'll just make it, I think, is my prediction.
No, fair shout. Derek says it would be useful if Burnley could stuff Everton tomorrow night. Yeah, it really would. But I can't. It's hard to say. If this game finishes a draw, that's no good for either of us. If anything, it's favourable for yourself due to already having, being points in front. But that's pretty much probably the only plus side. We're at a point now in our seasons where we're overlooking our shoulder at what Watford and Norwich are doing. As much as we've got to do what we need to do, we've also right, can you not start putting the ball in the back of the net, because we don't need that shit right now, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say who goes down, who's not, because bit of a horrible question to ask when we're both sat fighting. It's more a case of, in recent weeks, it's become more difficult, hasn't it? The likes of Brentford putting results together. Leeds have put a few back-to-back results in there as well, and it's just, there's not that many teams in it now. What used to be a good 6 or 7 teams battling it out at the bottom has now become 2 or 3. And I mean, do you fear for the worst? Do you think it's possible? I mean, looking at it, it's possible, obviously. But do you think, personally, this is the season that Everton finally bite the bullet?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it depends on tomorrow, to be perfectly honest. I think if you look at Newcastle, their run, who was the first team that they beat? Well, it was us. We went away to Newcastle. They beat us 3-1. And from there, I think they had a run of about 5 out of 6 wins. And from really being in it, they're out pretty much. If they get a couple more wins, like, they're safe. And so that's my worry for tomorrow. And I think that's why, every Everton fan and Burnley fan will know what a huge game it is, because I think if you guys manage to win, it gives you a lift, and then you've got, I believe Norwich after us.
Yeah, Norwich on Sunday, yeah.
So I think if you guys win, for me, I see you guys getting 6 points, because I think, you beat us tomorrow and then you'll go into that game with confidence. We, however, from an Everton perspective, we've got you guys and then we've got Man United at home. So I'm just thinking, get the 3 points tomorrow. If we don't, you say what you want about Man United about, they've been hot and cold. They, they're not like Ranić, whatever. They still have more than enough to beat us, even if it's at Goodison, even like all of those factors. So for me, because our running is so hard and we're playing pretty much all of the top 6, pretty much, we have to beat you tomorrow. Like, we simply have to. A lot of quite a few other Everton fans saying they'd be happy with a point. I personally won't, because we are playing United, then we've got Palace. Palace have beaten us twice already this season, 4-0 the last time. So I've got no confidence. So I just think this would be the season where I think I've been most worried, and I think other fans have as well. I mean, we have bad times under Marco Silva and like countless other managers, but this one for me, because the players just have no fight. Like, I'm too young to remember the 90s when Everton, I think they beat Wimbledon to stay up. That team had character and it had fight, and they may not be very good quality, but they would just grind a result out, 2-1, whatever. My issue is with this current crop of players, I believe that they think they're too good for a relegation fight. And I think it was Mason Holgate that came out last week, actually, and said, I think you'll find at the end of the season, we'll get to the end of the season and Everton fans will realise that we were never in a fight. And I read the comment and I just thought, they don't even believe they're in a relegation fight, let alone showing the character to actually fight. And that comment worried me more than anything. Because if in the dressing room they think everything's okay, and even if we get relegated, they'll go off to other clubs and they'll still get a big salary. Like, that's what worries me about this current crop of players, and whether we've got enough in us. I don't know.
A shocking mentality, really. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Dash has come out and said stuff like, our next 10 games, the typical Dash saying each game as it comes, every game is there to be won.
Yeah.
But then yet again, you've got to say, you've got to sort of keep a mentality going of positivity. But, he accepts the fact that he knows, he says, we know the task at hand. We've been in this situation many times before. Exactly. We've managed to get out of it. And that's what we need to do. We need to believe in each other, believe in ourselves, and the results will come. So the fact that I can't believe they've said that, wow, that shocked me. That has shocked me. I did not expect that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ignored that, but I thought, well, hang on a minute, he's been here for 5 years. He's been here for the other relegation fights, and obviously we've always been okay. We finished 10th, finished 12th. We've always been all right. But with 10 games to go, that's not what I want you to be saying. In that, everyone needs to calm down. It's not going to happen, because if you're thinking that, no wonder you don't run. No wonder you don't, cover the yards, because you just think everything's going to be all right. Mad.
That is madness. Derek, I don't think that. He says Everton going down would be an absolute disaster for them, could be the end of Everton as a club. But see, if anything, I don't think it would. I think it could help. is sort of like the rebirth of Everton in a nutshell, because you've seen the likes of Southampton and Leeds, drop down the divisions, and then all of a sudden they've built themselves back up. Nobody wants that to happen. You want to be able to rebuild from where you are. But we've seen that clubs have had to do that. We might have to do it if we go down. Our squad's practically a retirement centre. You're 35 plus in our squad, so it is very difficult. It is a sort of, the Premier League's got better. I think we can say that, and we just haven't risen to that occasion. Chris from Leicester Till I Die TV is in the chat. Thank you very much, Chris. It says you can see this being 0-0 last match on Match of the Day type of game. I hope it's not. I hope this is a game where literally the floodgates are open from both sides. I know you've got to defend and attack, but I want it to be such a free-flowing game that both teams don't care who. It's just sort of an Eddie Howe mentality. We'll score one more than you, sort of thing.
Yeah,
I'd take that sort of game right now.
Yeah, I do agree with that to a point. I think if Everton go down, I think at least it would get rid of some of the mercenaries, and that's exactly what they are. They're here for the pay packet. They don't really care about Everton. Some of them, you could argue, don't really even prioritise football. It's about the other stuff that they do. It would get rid of that, and it would be a reset. I think it's like the likes of Leeds. They may argue, well, we were out of it for too long. We were down there. I think Everton would be the same, actually, and I think financially, I'm not the expert on this, but financially, with the new stadium coming, I think that part would be a disaster, because you cannot charge. Everton don't have a huge season ticket price and all of that, but they've had it frozen for about 10, 11 years, I think. So when the new stadium comes, I think Premier League survival is just essential. If you want to raise the ticket prices by 20%, however much they're going to raise it by, you can't do that if we're in the Championship. And I think it would be good in terms of the players. I think, those players who just have already checked out, okay, you guys go. But I'd be worried that it would be years and years for Everton to come back. And for a lot of people, I think, it would. I think, like, been in the division so long. I think it's just I can't really believe where we are, to be honest. I can and I can't, because of everything I've just said. But it's just mad.
It is absolute madness. Who'd have thought Burnley? Well, I can understand Burnley. We've punched above our weight for far too long in the Premier League. But I agree with Kate. Obviously, Burnley do need to win this. I guess Everton do as well. But obviously, being Burnley fans, this is a do or die game. And I think people that say that this isn't a must win are deluded. And I know it's all a matter of opinions, but honestly, you're on cloud cuckoo land if you don't think this is a must-win game.
Say for both, I'd say for both teams, honestly. Yeah.
The thing is, though, that I'm looking at it two ways, because, as you say, your running is really, well, it's very harsh compared to what we've got, and that can either make you or break you, depending on say you get the result against us this weekend. It makes things a lot healthier for you in terms of position wise. But those games that you're not expected to get things from, you could almost sort of go there with like when you're already relegated and teams end up getting results against the big sides and things like that. It could almost be a bit like that, because you feel like, right, well, we've done our bit, that's it. Almost like you can take that weight off and sort of sit back. However, from us, we've got a lot of teams that are still mid-table, maybe fighting to get that one position difference could be the difference between a couple of million quid, in the league for teams. So there is a lot more technicalities to it. Obviously, we'll get into predicted lineup. Chris says Burnley have 2 must-win games coming up. 100%, massively 100% with that. Derek says Everton need a sugar daddy to come in and save them. See, I don't think they do. I think, as Rose alluded to, get rid of everybody behind Mashiri and start again. Sort of do that. What what Manchester City did, get rid of everybody out and not restart the club, but give it a bit of a freshen up. And I think that's what needs to be done. But yeah, as you say, we will get into the predictions. So, lineups. I know we said off camera this is going to be difficult for yourselves. The injuries, the suspensions, it's probably easier to name who's out than who's in. But say Lampard has gone, Rose has been appointed Everton manager. You're going into this game this weekend, and you're picking that starting 11. Who starts for you?
So Jordan Pickford in goal, because he has, he's kept a lot of the scores down. Like West Ham was 2-1. But honestly, like, it was so quick out of the goal, stopping Antonio quite a few times that it could have been worse, honestly. So Pickford in goal. Coleman now really has to play. Because Coleman is in doubt.
Has he just come back from injury as well, Coleman?
Yeah, so he's like touch and go. I just think John Joe Kenny, like, I don't have any. I'm sorry, I don't have any faith in him.
I was going to say, I can see from a lot of Everton fans that they're almost like every time they see Kenny in the lineup.
Yeah, because again, this is another thing I think that he wasn't good enough, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. If he was good enough, that's when he should have replaced Coleman. That's when he should have been brought into the first team. He wasn't. Now he's probably mid-20s, and we're still persisting with him because he's all we've got. So for me, if Coleman is fit enough to be on the bench, I would just start him. Because I think he is somebody who at least knows what it means to wear the shirt. You can't say that for a lot of them, but he does. So I go with Coleman. I'd go with Godfrey and Branthwaite, personally for me, because we've got no Yerry Mina. Michael Keane suspended, so it just picks itself. And then on the left, I would go Mikolenko because he's a natural left back that we've got. So that's my 4 at the back. And then in midfield, I'll put actually Holgate because he did all right against West Ham, got the goal. And I feel like he wasn't as such a liability as he is in defence. So I'd put Holgate in midfield. Play Decore, Alan's out, Van der Beek's out. So Decore, Holgate, and probably Iwobi, honestly, just to put a bit of effort in. And then my front 3, I'd go with Richarlison, Gordon, and Gray. And I go for Richarlison centrally because when he's stuck out wide, I feel like he's not as effective. And that would be my team. Yeah, and I put Calvert-Lewin on the bench just because I feel like while it was better from him, his effort levels were just not where I would expect. So yeah, so I'd keep the likes of Calvert-Lewin and Dele Alli on the bench because, again, Dele Alli hasn't shown me very much. And it seems, again, like a bit of an odd signing when we're leaking goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my team.
What's your thoughts on Calvert-Lewin? Because a lot of people say he's literally he's gone from footballer to what I want to be fashion icon.
So I made a video about this actually. I don't normally speak about footballers and what they do off the pitch because I feel like, well, it's your life, do what you want. Football's one part of it. But yeah, so there was an article released this week from GQ, I think, and yeah, Calvert-Lewin's on the front, and the headline, he's bringing fashion back to football. I mean, this is a guy who hasn't scored since August, and the majority of people who watch, I think, agreed with me in that if you're like, I know that the exact parallel is Jack Grealish is apparently about to sign a deal with Gucci for like 7 figures.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, so I fully expect footballers, they're a brand, basically. And I think this is what I struggle with because it's not the football really that I grew up with even. Like, David Beckham was always kind of an anomaly in that, he did it all. But David Beckham also had the trophies to, like, back it up, I feel like, and, was a great player. My issue with it is that Calvert-Lewin has not had a good season. So I feel like the timing of it, and it was released actually a day after the West Ham defeat. I just think do your thing, but you also have from May to August to do all of that and release all those interviews. When it's pre-season, no one's really going to say anything. But when we're in a relegation fight and you haven't scored for months, is it the best thing for you to be on the cover of a magazine saying you want to be basically a fashion star? And I just think, the timing of it isn't good, but I also just think it's a distraction from what his career is and why he's known, which is football. That's just my take on it. I know a lot of people may not, or a few people may not agree with that. But I think the timing and I think his PR team need to be a bit, because it won't be him. I'm not blaming him. It won't be him that's releasing that interview, but his PR team needs to be a bit more sensible in terms of when things are released, because it just annoys Everton fans more and it makes, I guess, the fans more disconnected from the team, because we were talking behind off screen, and like when we had David Moyes as manager, it was a team you could get behind. It wasn't great, it wasn't world class. It didn't have as many internationals as we do now, but it was a team that you liked because whenever they got on the pitch, they worked hard. And I feel like now there is quite a disconnect between a lot of fans and a lot of these players. I mean, there's probably 4 or 5, maybe even 3 or 4 that I could say I like. And, but the rest of them, I just think you don't care. And if you don't care, then why should I care about your fashion project? Honestly, that's it.
No, I agree. If you're going to bring fashion back to football, I think the only fashion he needs to bring back is goals.
Exactly. Yeah. And normally, you get a split between, just let him live. Come on, it's his life. Yeah. Just let him do what he wants. But actually, the majority, and they were mainly Everton fans, but also Liverpool fans, saying, this guy hasn't scored since August. He's their number 9. Like, what is he doing? They're in a relegation fight. What is he doing? Yeah. And I just think when Liverpool fans and Everton fans are agreeing on something, I feel like there's something a little bit wrong.
It's like you say, you can walk the walk, but you've got to talk the talk as well. So if you're putting the ball in the back of the net, no one's going to bat an eyelid what you do off the pitch, what you wear, what you're up to. But if you're walking around like you're Billy Big Bollocks, dressed like, like up to the hills in whatever you want to wear, and you're walking around basically flouncing around what you've got, when deep down people are like, do you even justify your wage? Like what you're playing at?
And that was my point about Grealish, is that, Grealish plays for Manchester City. They're competing for the title. He's becoming a regular England international as well. He's scoring goals. He's got a big price tag on him, and he'll be feeling that pressure. But he does, walk the walk on the pitch. He's still prioritizing football. So I think as fans, we may have to adjust in the future of players don't just play football. That's fine, but I just, for me, I think it was just a timing of it, and it was a bit tone deaf, because even in the interview he's talking about, I want to play in the Champions League. Well, at the minute we're way closer to the Championship than we are to the Champions League, so maybe focus on that. But who am I to say that? I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is working on becoming a brand, and fair play to him, but.
But we all have things, I say we, I mean, the footballers have things, going on off the pitch. But if he wants Champions League football, prove that you're a Champions League worthy footballer.
Yeah.
And if you're not actually showcasing that, and I know you can argue that, you need the players around you to do it maybe, but then if it looks like you're the shining armour in a team of 11 that don't look like they're pulling the weight, then people will say, oh, you know what? He's better than us. He deserves to go on to something better. But if he's not, then it's a case of, listen, you're just as bad as the rest of them. You're not. How can you justify what you're saying?
Yeah, well, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's had one good season, and like I said, he had James Rodriguez.
But so did Miyazaki, so did Michu. It's this is what I mean.
He's had one good season. Like someone like Harry Kane. Like you say, if Harry Kane decides that he wants to be a model and is on the face of every magazine, fair play. He's proven it for about nearly 10 years. For Spurs, he's at that level. And like you said, no one will blame him for saying, I want to go to Man City this summer 100%. But Calvert-Lewin, I feel like, I don't know, maybe just being managed a little bit poorly. But also it opens himself up for criticism, and I think right now you need to focus on the pitch. You simply have to focus on the pitch. Or maybe just take a step back from football. Because I feel like, the kind of one comment I got was, well, I don't really care what he's doing off the pitch. But I'm like, but I do, because the elite footballers, they're always training. And I think a Southampton fan actually commented and said, James Ward-Prowse was at training 2 hours later than everybody else this week, working on set pieces, working on this. And I think, well, yeah, and that's good. I feel like our players need to do that. They should be forced to train more, because it's not working. Whatever they're doing, injuries, can't defend set pieces, and again, I'm concerned about that for playing you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. We've been awful at set pieces this season, so don't worry about that.
Famous last. So that's my issue with it. I just think it's a distraction. And I want to be talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin's ability, because, great in the air, brings other players into play, but he simply has to score more goals. And all of this stuff about being a fashion icon or whatever, fair enough, do it all in your pre-season. But when the season's on and you're getting paid weekly to play for Everton, I expect you to focus on that. And I don't think that is a huge ask, actually. So
no, it's not. Totally agree. Burnley's lineup. Who would I go for? I mean, it's been the same squad for years, so probably Pope in goal. It's a tough one. I don't know whether Nathan Collins will come straight back in or whether he'll keep Kevin Long in. Potentially. I think he'd go back to Nathan Collins. As much as Kevin Long's been at the club since it practically started. I'd go with him and Tarkowski at centre-back. I'd drop Connor Roberts for this game. I'd play Matt Lawton at right-back. Charlie Taylor on the left, because Eric Peters is still a bit... still has a bit of a dodgy leg. Then it'd be Josh Brownhill and Jack Cork in the midfield. I would drop Ashley Westwood. I would... I would start Cornet on the left, Dwight McNeil on the right, and I would play Rodriguez and Veghorst up front. However, I don't know what Dash will do.
I was going to say, it's mad to say that lineup actually scares me. The likes of, Dwight McNeil, is it Brownhill and Cork in midfield? I'm already thinking that actually this is fully seriously, you guys have more quality in terms of definitely someone like Dwight McNeil. I'm not sure the kind of season he's had this season, but I remember last season I thought he looks really good. And that's my honest opinion. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, right, Tarkowski, good centre back. He's not going to allow Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison or Rondon, whoever plays there, he's not going to allow them an inch. Loughton gets forward quite well, doesn't he? So already I'm thinking, hang on a minute, that's so for the fact you've only won 3, all of that, for me, form goes out the window when you play Everton.
Yeah.
And if a player hasn't scored for ages, the running kind of in joke is, well, not really even a joke if you're a fan of the club, but play Everton. Ryan Fraser hasn't scored for 2 years. Josh King gets a hat trick for Watford. He hasn't had a hat trick since I bet against us. So I just think. Yeah, no, I'm worried. I'm really worried. I'm not going to lie about it.
Yeah, as people are saying here, McNeil is, he's come under a lot of criticism this season.
Oh, has he not been? Has he not been good?
He doesn't look arsed. That's the worrying thing. We've seen many games where he's took 2 or 3 people on, he's lost the ball, and he's just stood there and gone, and got frustrated instead of putting the frustration behind him, turning and just, battling for the second ball. But and we're just get back, you lazy get. And what are you doing? Why are you not battling when you should be?
Oh, come on tomorrow. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have his best game. for you lot tomorrow. Like, because I think, we've got Mikolenko, Kenny. I'm just thinking, gosh, any winger that can take people on, our players panic. And so I would be surprised. I think maybe it was last season at Goodison. I think he scored a great goal. Maybe it was, I don't know, outside of the box, like just a shot. So that's why I remember him. But yeah, I'm worried. I can't lie.
Wow. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. Before I play a little game with you, how do you see this one panning out tomorrow? It's hard to put a scoreline on it, isn't it? It really is.
I think I honestly don't think there'll be many goals because both teams are just struggling to score so much. My heart would say 1-0 to Everton and just get a result by any means necessary. I don't care if it's an ugly goal, if we, just fight for 90 minutes just to get the 3 points. My head actually says draw. My head suggests that because it's not at Goodison, I fear that the players won't rise to it. And they'll go into their shells and we'll probably get a point. What do you think?
I've got sort of two ways of looking at it. I've got exactly the same as you in my head saying both teams cancel each other out where both teams don't want to lose. And if anyone nicks it, it's just going to be one of those scrappy 1-0 games. The only thing I think that gives me a bit more optimism towards Burnley getting it is the fact that we have Jay Rodriguez in there, a Burnley lad, who'll be like, right, let's get behind him. And I'm not saying that Big Dunk's not going to be in there giving it, a bit of a pep talk. I mean, I'd have loved to have seen Big Dunk get the job properly because I think he would have, at least it'd give a good account of himself, not like Shearer at Newcastle. But, I just think he'd have been a really good disciplinarian as well, not just for the fact that he's an all-round good guy, deep down. So, yeah, I'm sort of very similar to you. I'd say 1-0, somebody nicks it. Obviously, I'm going to say 1-0 Burnley, but same as you, head says draw. Missy says, I don't think there'll be many goals, but I'm feeling slightly confident. I'm glad you are. I will be on pit. I will not have any. I'll be like, I will literally bite my nails. I'll be sat watching and just. I'm guessing. Are you doing a watch along for it tomorrow?
I am. Well, yes, I am. Yeah, I'm quite nervous about it though. But yeah, I'm going to do a watch. Yeah,
no, I'll be doing a watch along myself, and it's one of those where potentially you'll either see one of us smiling, one of us will either be smiling, or one of us will either be crying. It's definitely going to be an interesting fixture. So I've got a little game called This or That, and we'll get into that.
This or that.
Don't worry, the voiceover jobs they're not coming in, and I can understand why. So in this game, basically, I'm going to ask you two things, and you tell me which one you prefer, and then we will obviously make a judgment come the end of it. So first one, home games or away games?
Home.
That's interesting. See, a lot of people go for away just because of the whole situation of the day, the travel, the camaraderie and stuff. But Everton's home form this season is probably better than their away form, so I'm guessing that's what you've gone for.
Yeah.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Ooh. Work hard or play hard?
Both. You're not allowed to do that, are you?
You know what? Why not? If you want both, you can have both. Sky Sports or BT Sports?
Sky Sports.
I should really chuck Amazon Prime in there or something like that. But Tim Howard or Jordan Pickford?
Tim Howard.
Good shout. That's what I'd have gone for as well. Two players that have left now, but who would you have picked over of one of the two? Baines or Luca Dean?
Baines.
Baines, just class. I loved Leighton Baines. Facebook or Twitter?
Twitter.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Interesting. If you could replace any current Everton player with a Burnley player, who would it be? Unfortunately, I can only give you one.
Yeah, just one. I'd actually say Tarkowski.
You might even be able to have him. He's on a free at the end of the season, so
yeah, I'd say him.
I wouldn't blame you. And the big question, Rose, this can ruin friendships, relationships, families, tears them apart. Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
No, it does not. Definitely does not.
Get in, legend, absolute legend. I'm so glad you said that. Just why put fruit on a pizza? What's wrong with people? What is wrong with people?
Yeah, I'm not for that.
Exactly. Derek says Burnley 1-0. The missus says work hard to play hard is the one. Fair shout.
Agree.
Dark Cloud 92 says who would do better in the Championship next season, Everton or Burnley? I'd say Everton due to the financial power they've probably got. And I reckon they'll be able to keep the bulk of some of the players that have only just signed, the likes of Dele Alli, and players like that.
I mean, yeah, going back down to the EFL. Yeah.
I don't want to think about the EFL. I don't want to think about it. Although I do miss times like that, to be fair, because I miss the rush of it all of trying to get promoted and things. Now, when you're there and you've done it for so many seasons, like yourselves, this could be your first relegation. So I think that's another thing of why you don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. The missus says it didn't tear us apart, the pineapple on pizza, and then decided to just go on a bit of a rant. Why put a donut on a burger? I mean, the donut burgers are decent. I'll give you that. Why put bacon on a pancake? It works, you fish. Thank you. That's the nicest comment you've ever said to me. And no, that is one thing that we both miss. We both miss that quite a lot, winning games.
Yeah.
Rose, thank you very, very much for your input, your insight to Everton. It's been absolutely great. Obviously, I'm shitting myself for tomorrow. I will not. I won't lie. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't say that I'm calm. I'm not.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming on and giving up your time. Where can people find you again, and obviously what you've got coming up on your channel?
So you can find me on YouTube as Everton Rose, and my socials are on there. In terms of what I've got coming up, so just collaborating with the fans, really like yourself, for the last few games, and just do watch-alongs, match reviews, not too long, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
Happy days. So as I say, everyone, please do go check out Rose's channel. Please do check it out. The link is in the description below on this video, so please do check it out. Also, while you're there, give us a chance as well. I know that the banner's in the way. It's just typical me, can't do things right. But yeah, ways to listen. This will be available on major podcast platforms in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We'll get it all sorted and edited up. But yeah, search Turf Moor House on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and you'll find us on there. And as I say, tomorrow night, Rose is doing one. We'll be doing one as well, a live watch along for Burnley versus Everton. I love how I put two players on there that may not even be playing or we may not even see in kits tomorrow. But no, as I say, thank you very much for your input. It really is amazing to have you on. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem at all. Guys, please do go check out Rose's channel. I'm getting used to it. I need to do that. It's opposite camera, isn't it? So please do go check out Rose's channel. And as I say, if you haven't subscribed already, please drop a subscription and search for us on all social media. Burnley versus Everton tomorrow, 7:30 kickoff. It is on Sky Sports if you want to watch. And if you haven't got Sky, then check mine or Rose's channel out, because no doubt, get two devices, put us both on, then you got contradicting views. Should be interesting.
Exactly.
But thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Take care, sleep well, and stay safe.
Right.